markets, see what's going on, see what's making headlines, and of course, trying to peel back the information and try to get a view for what's happening in the future as far as real estate investing, buyer sellers market. Where's the momentum? What is the consumer doing? So today, Home Depot reported, or basically, I don't know if it was after hours or before open this morning, but anyways, looks like they exceeded on earnings per share. Looks like they expected to make $3.08. They actually made 3.17. However, they missed on revenue. These are just huge numbers for a quarter. The estimate was for just shy of $31 billion. I honestly had no idea Home Depot was that big, right? That's over $100 billion business. Crazy. But revenue was short. Basically, they missed by $150 million, which is you know certainly a lot of money to me. But again, they missed by 150 million, but they exceeded earnings per share by 9 cents. Right, that's the whole right accounting game, right? So you can actually miss on the top line, but exceed on the bottom line, which they did. Something I saw that was interesting is same store sales that have been open more than a year were up 3% versus an expectation of 3.5%. The one thing that I really didn't appreciate about Home Depot is that 8% of their revenue comes from lumber, right? Lumber. So, the other thing that was unfamiliar to me is lumber's had some deflation recently. It looks like lumber is down 16%. And lumber's down that much, and it's 8% of total revenue. It can fall to the bottom line. So that could explain the miss right there. If you do if you take that math and bring it forward. But what I think is most interesting is obviously lumber is a significant part of real estate, right? Sticks and bricks, they say. And if lumber deflation is happening, it's obviously because there's what happens, right? Well, there's supply demand imbalances, and this could simply be impacts of the trade war, right? Maybe China is not buying as much American lumber. I don't know. I haven't looked into that yet. But to see that lumber is down means that there's a supply and demand imbalance. At least that's what it means to me. And if that's the case, right? And the supply is probably pretty well known, right? It must be a demand picture. So I am curious what you all think of that kind of rationalization. Do you think lumber deflation of 16% points to a demand problem? Let me know what you think, but that's how I play that one out in my head. And obviously, if there's a demand problem, it means builders aren't building, and that will have a trickle down effect. So curious, again, let me know what you think. I think that's pretty interesting. Another thing I read is I dug more into Cisco Systems earnings and looked at the fact that most of their miss actually came from China, where revenue was down 25%. Makes sense, right? Trade war going on. I'm sure. When in doubt, they could just delay purchase decisions, and looks like they did. Right, this could be made up next quarter. You don't know if both sides get together. But I do wonder what other tech companies have significant footprint in China where that makes up a significant share of their business. Probably a lot of technology companies, it's a rounding error. They may not even have their own sales team. But I imagine if you are a technology company and one of your China, you probably had a pretty bad quarter. So, something to look at for me if I was doing this was to figure out who has China exposure and look at that. Another thing I saw is there is another billionaire, Ron Barron. Honestly, I hadn't heard of him before. He apparently started Barron Capital in 1982, so he's been in the game a while, as you would expect. And the thing that caught my attention is he is a buy and hold investor a la Warren Buffett. His average hold is 14 years, and that's impressive for a stock guy, right? Holding for 14 years. So I read the article, really got appreciation for him. He basically said the average investor is emotional, sells at the wrong time, buys at the wrong time, and I'm like, yep, that's me. That's why I don't do this game. And he is basically a robot when it comes to investing. He didn't see a change, at least in his viewpoint last week. So at the dip, I think it was Wednesday, he says he tripled his stock exposure. He didn't say what that was. For all I know, he had one share and he now has three shares. So, who knows? He didn't get into that detail. He was just adamant that, he didn't see a change. So he saw a buying opportunity. Another thing I saw is that U.S. Steel is laying off, at least temporarily, hopefully temporarily, a couple hundred people in their Michigan plant. Apparently, again, they're shutting down a blast furnace, which it sounds, is an important part of making steel, I'm sure. So they're shutting that down. Again, like lumber earlier, that doesn't leave me warm and fuzzy for the future, right? If lumber is being deflated because we have supply demand imbalance, now U.S. Steel is shutting down a furnace that makes steel. What's going on, right? We have a supply demand imbalance again, and it just doesn't feel right, right? Steel and lumber are at least how I'm reading it, or have some supply demand imbalances. Again, let me know what you think. Am I looking at this the right way, or is there something going on, that I haven't seen? If you know of another article that I should check out that has an alternative view on U.S. steel or lumber, send the link in the comments below. I'd love to read up on it. Another thing I saw is that bank stocks like Citi and Bank of America are now in bear market territory. And again, a bear market is often defined as down 20% from the peaks. So, with the yield curve inversion, it's harder to make money. Banks are down. But again, what I expect that to do is I expect banks to get more aggressive on lending. So again, as a real estate investor, that's all I do in the morning is to try to figure out what's going on in the real estate world. I see bank stocks being down as a good sign for me, because in the future they will get more aggressive and they're going to do things that they maybe didn't do before. For example, something that's been hard to do at a traditional bank is a portfolio loan, right? Where you would take five or six assets, put them together, and lend on it. I think they're going to do stuff like that. Where before they gave real estate investors a hard time if you owned more than 4 or 10 properties, I expect that to go away. I expect rates to go down. I expect all these kinds of things, and that's going to be interesting. So at the end of the day, it's more status quo, more going forward, and we'll see what happens. Again, let me know what you think about lumber and U.S. steel. I'd love to get some more opinions, and have a great day.